Hi everyone, welcome to The Verdict. A little bit later on in the programme I'm going to be focusing on the Irish Derby, the Pretty Polly Stakes from the Curragh at the weekend. They had some tremendous racing over 3 days. We'll go to Newmarket as well, look at a couple of performances from the July course on Saturday afternoon. But we will start at Kempton Park, a Wednesday evening contest that I was quite impressed with. Here are the winners. Now look at those times. Overall, they were pretty slow. Grand Duchess Olga, the slowest time on the card, over 2 miles. They tend to be a crawl at Kempton, those 1.5 mile and 2 mile races. But overall, I think the track is riding more slow than standard, and plenty of those times not quite as good as you would expect. We will have a look at Time for Sandals very shortly in the 640, a 2-year-old who won over 6 furlongs. And you'll see from the Race IQ Time Index graph that Time for Sandals put up the best score at the meeting on debut, a 4.44. Now, those scores are very low. What you would expect would be a score between 5 and 6 for this class of meeting and for these types of races. So I think that the ground is a little bit deep at Kempton at the moment, causing these times to be not quite as good as you would expect. But the best was Time for Sandals at 4.44. Time for Sandals coming out of stall 6, beating Jancy from 5 and Original Outlaw from stall number 4. Bear in mind that she's on debut here, the winner, and she takes a little bit of a bump just coming out of the stalls and is 6th fastest to 20 miles an hour. She takes 2.79 seconds. To put that in context, the fastest in the race was 2.55 seconds, so a little bit quicker than Time for Sandals. And that slightly tardy break and the bump means that she has to race towards the rear. Now, in terms of pace, this was an interesting contest. They went quite hard early on, 13.7. This is Dinky Diva in front, and then 11.65, so quite quick, and then steadied a 12.59 and a 12.04. So we got kind of a fast, slow, fast race with the winner second last and poorly placed at this stage of the race. And I do like horses that can go past those in front when those in front are not stopping, when they're still rolling, but the one from the back can pick them up, and that shows real raw ability, and that's what she shows here. She quickens from 9th to 3rd, and she does so with an 11.45 second furlong, and she's just scythed between horses to get to Jancy, who's out in front, had been under the cosh quite a long way out, and now she's just nudged out hands and heels by Richard Kingscott in the closing stages. 23.48, a final 2 furlongs. The runner-up, 23.69. Not much between them, but the runner-up got first run and wasn't stopping. And Time for Sandals has done really well to pick her up. That tardy start, the bump that she got, meant she was poorly positioned in a race that wasn't run at a furious tempo, so she had to quicken to go and get them, and that is exactly what she was able to do. Her finishing speed percentage, 105.2, so 5.2% quicker in the last couple of furlongs than the rest of the race, and that was good enough to go past all of her rivals through those final couple of furlongs. I was quite impressed with this. Look, it's just hands and heels in the closing stages. She's got a very fast pedigree. She's by Sands of Marley out of a Bachelor Duke mare, which is all sprinting really. And that turn of foot that she showed on debut from a poor position was pretty impressive. And I fancy there's going to be a bit more to come from this filly. He was trained by Harry Eustace. His horses are in really good form at the moment, and it was a sympathetic ride from Richard Kingscott. But this filly delivered when a lot went against her throughout the race. And look at those finishing speed percentages on this Race IQ summary graph. You can see that you've got several of them finishing quicker than 100%. So she's running down horses who are not stopping. For example, Jancy was 4.3% quicker in the final 2 furlongs than the rest of the race, but she ran Jancy down. Likewise, she ran Original Outlaw down. It was a good performance from her, 11.45, her quickest furlong. No horse in the race ran as fast as that, and she did that through the 5th furlong, which surged her to the front. She's a 2-year-old sprinter. I think much better things await for her. Possibly a sales race might be something that the Eustace team might target. Time for Sandals. Put her in your racing TV tracker. Okay, from Time for Sandals at Kempton on Wednesday night, let's go to Newmarket on Saturday afternoon. A really good card, the Criterion and the Fred Archer being the feature events at 2:50 and 3:25, and both of those produced excellent times going under standard. Double for Charlie Appleby and William Buick. Overall, the times were very good on fast ground at Newmarket Saturday afternoon. Let's have a look at the Race IQ Time Index to put those times into some sort of context. Now, we'd expect something between 5 and 6, and we've got much better times than that overall, the average being 7.1, the best time put up in the third race by King of Conquest with a 9.47. That is a big score from this real nice stayer for the Charlie Appleby team. And that is where we will start. King of Conquest coming from stall number 4, the runner-up Americ out in stall 6, and Deauville Legend, he's beaten again, stall number 3 for him. Now this is a very interesting race in terms of pace. Crystal Delight gets out the stalls really quickly and wants to go to the front. Now this horse had won at York and at Epsom on his previous couple of starts, making all the running. The plan was clearly to do the same. However, Kamari is the spoiler in the Godolphin blue with the white cap. And going up sides Crystal Delight, that horse gets keen, and these two go head-to-head and toe-to-toe, eyeballing each other, and they go way too quick. Very fast early sectionals. 14.67 out of the stalls. Bear in mind this is a 1.5 mile race. Then 11.64 and an 11.2 third furlong. You think they'd be in a 6 furlong sprint going 11.2 for the third furlong. But no, they were taking each other on, and they were roaring along at too fast a pace for their own good. And ultimately, both of them out in front right now drop away, and they are beaten 30+ lengths by the winner, who is in the Godolphin blue and never really on the bridle. He's got the blue cap in behind under William Buick. And Americ, who finishes second, is sat last at this stage. This is a lovely ride from William Buick. King of Conquest is lazy. He's never really on the bridle. But Buick doesn't get serious with him, just keeps trying to nudge him into that bridle and keep him in touch. And what he does in terms of pace is he rides an even race throughout. So what happens is William Buick is just running evenly. King of Conquest doesn't really quicken. He just keeps going through the race, as evidenced by his finishing speed percentage, 101.22%. So he's only 1.22% quicker in the final 3 furlongs, which is coming up, than he was in the rest of the race. Just rated evenly by Buick, and then he comes home pretty well. His closing sectionals were okay. He went from a 12.25, and then as we get into the 3 to the 2, 11.82 and 11.57 and a 12.75. So he showed a little bit of a turn of foot, not much really though. He's just kept galloping all the way to that. And look at those two out the back, the two that made the running. Absolutely thrashed. Deauville Legend travels well, as he always does, but doesn't find much. And Americ, who is a little bit faster through the final couple of furlongs than the winner, just had a bit too much to do, really. He was in behind. The winner had a length and a half, 2 lengths on him, and that proved vital as King of Conquest just kept galloping. He just kept rolling out there under a really good ride from William Buick, and I think he'll stay further. I'd really think he could go up to 2 miles, this fella. I think he'll always be a horse who doesn't fill you with confidence if you've backed him, because he doesn't really pick the bridle up, but he finds loads for pressure, and he kept on rolling in the closing stages. Crystal Delight is still a progressive sort. Things just didn't pan out here at all, and I'm not sure it was by design, but Kamari kind of spoilt the party for that horse. The front two having a good tussle. It wasn't a race that had a lot of depth, but it was a race that produced a very good final time, a high Race IQ Time Index score, and there are the details, courtesy of Race IQ, the summary graphic. 11.35, the quickest that the winner got to. Americ, 11.36. It's not too bad a furlong sectional for both of those. But there's the important point, the finishing speed percentages. The front two, just over 100. They were rated evenly, a long way off that furious early gallop. And it was a very strong stayer, King of Conquest, who took the Fred Archer. Let's just look back on the Race IQ Time Indexes. You saw that King of Conquest was 9.47, the best time of the day, and that's a very high score. We'll see one that's higher later on in the programme, but Noble Dynasty was an interesting score, 7.45 in race number 4, the Criterion, over 7 furlongs. So he's put up a good time as well. And you remember that King of Conquest went understandard, and so did this horse, Noble Dynasty. So let's have a look at his performance out there in the Criterion from stall 2. He beats Nostrum, back to form Nostrum, who came from 6, and Witch Hunting, who'd run well in the Queen Anne at Royal Ascot. He came out of stall number 3. So let's have a look at them out of the stalls. We've got plenty of pace signed on here, Pogo being one of them. He's quick away. He's 2.4 seconds to 20 miles an hour. Noble Dynasty, he was the second fastest, 2.51. OK, so let's send them on their way. They didn't look like they were going to go much of a gallop for the first furlong or half a furlong or so. But then, Dear My Friend, towards the stand side, decides to get on with it. And Pogo gets on a roll as well. Now look at William Buick here. Friday night, it was best to be stand side. That's where you needed to be. Buick can track Pogo if he wants in the middle of the track, over on that far side. That's not really where you wanted to be Friday night. But William Buick, conscious of where the best place to be on the track is, angles across to get in behind Dear My Friend. I think that was a very sensible, clever move from William Buick. The overall time here is very good. And this horse, I think, is getting better. He won at Newmarket on the Rowley Mile last time. He beat English Ochre, went on to win the Buckingham Palace at Royal Ascot, and he carved out even fractions that day from the front, and he was not for stopping, not for catching. He just kept rolling. And here, well, he's won in a different style. He's not led, he's tracked the pace, and then he's quickened up. His 5th furlong of 10.89 seconds was very good. It took him to the lead. It got him a length or so clear of Nostrum, who's trying to challenge up the stand side rail. Again, a sensible ride, tracking across from the widest draw towards the far side. But Noble Dynasty was too fast and too good in a strongly run race. Some of these early sectionals were quite stark. 11.52 the second furlong, 10.93 the third, 11.01 the fourth, the fifth at 10.89. So he's had to run quite hard throughout the race, but that little bit of speed that he showed under William Buick has taken him a length or so clear of Nostrum, who was a bit keen early on and couldn't run the winner down. Evidence of how strongly run race this was from the finishing speed percentage, 99.89. So they're finishing off the last couple of furlongs just a little bit slower than they ran the rest of the race. So they went pretty hard early on, but that 1 furlong where he was able to quicken from the 2 to the 1 has won him the race. I think he's a really nice horse, this fella. He's got a tremendous strike rate, and he is a horse who has improved since he's been gelded. It's been thought that he's perhaps a little bit ungenuine, doesn't really give it all. He's a bit of a tricky customer. I don't think in his last 2 starts he's shown anything like that. I think he's been tough and game, and here he's carved out some strong sectionals throughout and quickened off them, and that's what he did at Newmarket as well on his previous start when he won a really good handicap. And he's taken this step up into Group 3 company in his stride. Look at his run line. So he's the top horse coming from stall 2, and you can see all of his sectionals and in brackets where he was positioned in the race. So he's got on the second furlong, 11.52. Then we'll move across to a 10.93, 4th furlong, 11.01. Then he's 10.89. He's battled up with an 11.17, and obviously he's getting tired in the final furlong, as they all were, with a 12.61. But he's had to run hard for 6 of those 7 furlongs, and that's evidenced by his finishing speed percentage of 99.89. You can see Nostrum, I think he's back to form. He's finished off quite well, as has Witch Hunter. They're both slightly quicker in the final 2 furlongs than the winner, but the winner got first jump on them when he quickened in that second last furlong. I think there's nothing wrong with this fella. He's not ungenuine. He's improving, and I think he's pretty useful. OK, we're going to focus on the Curragh now at the weekend. We're going to start with a couple of races on Saturday, and we'll end with the Irish Derby on Sunday. Here are the winners on Saturday afternoon. Now, bear in mind, these overall times were affected by conditions. It had rained overnight, and it continued to rain during the day, so they were perhaps a little bit slower than you might imagine. The 2 races I want to focus on are Jan Bruegel in the 2.55 over a mile and a quarter. Look at that, 2 minutes 9.86. And Bluestocking in the Group 1, Pretty Polly, slower at 2.10.9. So over a second slower in the Group 1 than Jan Bruegel was in the International at 2.55. Let's equate that as far as the Race IQ time index is concerned. And you can see that those 2 mile and a quarter times were pretty good. They scored pretty well. 6.61 for Jan Bruegel, 5.95 for Bluestocking. But it was Jan Bruegel who put up the best time of the day in the conditions. These scores take into account the class of the race and the conditions and previous runnings of this sort of race under these conditions as well. So very accurate scores, and Jan Bruegel the best time of the day. Okay, let's have a look at him. I think he's very good, this fella. I really do. Just for information purposes, he came from 2. Trust Your Instinct, who made the running, came from 1, and A Croix Secret came from stall number 3. And as you might expect, the gallop's pretty good. We'll identify them. Okay, the first 2 are 1-2 at this stage. It's a run style that is suited to the Curragh. It's quite hard at this track to make up ground from the back. Let's send them on the way. Trust Your Instinct going a pretty good gallop out in front, and Jan Bruegel's just got a nice toe in behind. To put what he's done so far in his career into context, he won a maiden on debut here at the Curragh, Jan Bruegel, and Aidan O'Brien thinks highly enough of him to put him straight into a Group 3 next time out. Now, when he won his maiden, he posted a very fast time. He posted a really good time index score, a fast time, and he quickened well. His sectionals were impressive. And that's why he went off odds on here, and he was very well backed as an odds on favourite. But this is a big step up for him in terms of class, and he's done really well to win because he still looked green and a little bit clueless under Ryan Moore, but he was getting the hang of things very much so in the final 2 furlongs, and he won with his ears pricked in the end, albeit it was a narrow success. They just steadied round the bend, and it meant that they were able to finish quite strongly through the closing stages. 106.3 the finishing speed percentage for the winner, 6.3% quicker in the final 3 furlongs than the rest of the race. And he really did get rolling the last furlong and a half. But look at him here. He's under pressure. Ryan's not happy. He's hanging a bit. Ryan thought about using his whip there. He just pulled it through, but he didn't. And now on the bend, he's run really wide and lost a bit of ground, and he's lost a bit of momentum as well. So he's got something to do now on Trust Your Instinct, who's got the run of the race and quickened 3 out. Did 11.93 from the 3 to the 2, 12.10 for the winner. So the Trust Your Instinct has stolen a march between the 3 and the 2. But then Jan Bruegel gets rolling in the penultimate furlong, that 11.93. Got him to the girth of Trust Your Instinct, and then he stayed on really well in the closing stages. Watch his ears as he gets to the front. The lugs never lie, and forward they go as he just gets to the front. I think he was really green here. I think he was dossing when he got to the front. He didn't handle the bend particularly well. Then Trust Your Instinct kicked, caught him flat-footed. For all the world, you didn't think he's had a chance of getting back up, but he got back up under a strong ride from Ryan Moore, learning all the time, this fella. Remember, just his second start. Final 3 furlongs, 36.65 for him, 36.86 for Trust Your Instinct, who kicked and went from the 3 to the 2, but ultimately was outstayed by Jan Bruegel over this 10 furlong trip. What lies in store for this really nice winner? Look at him pricking his ears. He's not doing a tap when he gets to the front. The Ledger might be the place for him. Surely they will step him up to 1.5 miles next time up, see how he handles the trip. But he's bred to stay further. There's lots of stamina on the dam side of his pedigree. Very impressive on debut. I think more impressive here. I think there's a lot more to come from him, and he's a really good-looking individual. It could be that the Ledger is the race they'll go for, but they've got loads and loads of options in the middle distance department as far as 3-year-olds are concerned. There's Illinois, there's Los Angeles, there's others as well. Here are the Race IQ details for him. He was quite quickly out of the stall, second fastest, 2.42. And thereafter, he just tracked the pace. He quickened up. Look, there's that 11.93 from the runner-up, but that was 3 out and caught Jan Bruegel flat-footed, but then Jan Bruegel came home stronger in the 9th and 10th furlong to catch Trust Your Instinct, who got first run. 106.3 is finishing speed percentage, so he finished quite quickly. Remember, the ground was pretty soft by that stage of the afternoon. So those set of numbers are pretty impressive from Jan Bruegel. And I really do think that he's value for a lot more than that winning margin of a neck. He's really useful. Okay, we're going to move on to the Pretty Polly, the Group 1 on Saturday afternoon. It was race number 5, over a mile and a quarter, and Bluestocking was the winner. A time index score of 5.95. You might have expected a little bit better than that, but it was not a race that was run at a very strong gallop, although it was by no means a crawl. Okay, we'll send them out of the stalls. Bluestocking, who was second fastest, 0 to 20 miles an hour, 2.49. Emily Upjohn, the other horse who was involved in the finish, was just a little bit slower. Now, the pace was not furious in the early part of this particular contest, and it is somewhat a controversial race given what happened to Emily Upjohn, and well, there are plenty of interpretations of how she performed out there. Let's just pick them up. You've got Bluestocking, well, she's sat in about 4th, isn't she? You've got the second, which is Emily Upjohn, just a length or so behind her. And it's an interesting race once we get to the second half, really. Remember the conditions, they're quite soft. Now, as ever, Emily Upjohn's a bit keen under Kieran Schumacher. She's just trying to do a bit too much. She was like that in the Coronation, which was an absolute crawl, won by Luxembourg. Kieran Schumacher looked to his right. I think he wanted to tuck in. I think he wanted a bit of cover, but he couldn't get in. And now he's got a problem. He's 4 wide, and she's a bit keen with him. And he knows they're not going a strongish gallop. So I think what he decides to do, OK, I'll let her roll forward. And he fires the quickest furlong at this point of the race to get handy. Probably thinking to himself, well, she's a bit keen with me, but if I get her nice and handy in what is a steadily run race at this stage, I'm in a good position to strike and go for home early on. Now, bear in mind, she's a filly that's got a very sharp turn of foot. When she won the Coronation last year, she fired 2 sub-11 second furlongs. And I'm sure Kieran would have preferred to be sat further back with cover and then be able to produce her late on, using that speed that she's got. But she's seen daylight, and now he's faced with a bit of a dilemma. Do I just sit and sit and sit and wait for something to come to me? He knows Bluestocking's somewhere there chasing him down. Or do I go? So he goes, and he goes 2.5 out, quickens from the 3 to the 2. 11.79 for Emily Upjohn, the 3 to the 2. 12.03 for Bluestocking, who's hanging. But then Emily Upjohn empties in the closing stages. She gets very tired. Her final furlong was over 13 seconds. She's legless out there, and Bluestocking is able to run her down, being 0.58 seconds quicker than Emily Upjohn through the final couple of furlongs. So there's a lot at play in this race. I think if you ran it again and Emily Upjohn was able to tuck in and use her speed at a different part of the race, she might well have won and quickened past Bluestocking, but it didn't work out like that. 2 reasons possibly. 1, there perhaps wasn't enough pace for her, and 2, once again, she was a bit too keen. But she did display her customary turn of foot, but it was used early on, and then she was vulnerable to Bluestocking, who ran on really well in the closing stages. She's got her Group 1 now. She's a very classy filly, and well done to Ross Orion and Rafe Beckett. She was second in the fillies and mares at Ascot on a Champions Day last autumn. So she is a really classy filly, and she's gone and got her Group 1 here. Here are the Race IQ details, and you'll see there that Emily Upjohn possessed a quick furlong. The 8th furlong was quick for her, 11.79. That's when she kicked. It's when she went for home. But she's run down by Bluestocking, who was a stronger stayer on the day in the conditions. And she has come home 106.81%, her finishing speed percentage, compared to Emily Upjohn, who still finished reasonably well through the final 3 furlongs, 105.19. But that was courtesy of 3 to 2 and 2 to 1, because 1 to the line, she was legless. I think she has proved that her engine is completely and utterly intact, Emily Upjohn. She's just going to need things to drop right. Surely one day she'll find a race where there's plenty of pace. She can get loads of cover and then use her speed thereafter. Bluestocking, well, she is very game and very tough. OK, finally in the programme today, we're going to concentrate on the Irish Derby, won by Los Angeles. And here are the winners on the day. And the thing to note is how much the ground had dried out. We had low time index scores on the Saturday. We had slowish times. But look at these times with Los Angeles going 4.45 seconds under standard. Wow. And Booyah went under standard as well, along with Star Harbour. So the ground has dried out remarkably well overnight between Saturday and Sunday. And look at the time index score. You cannot get better than a 10 when the scale is 0 to 10. And that's what Los Angeles has achieved in the Irish Derby. Look at all of those scores as well. The average, 8.43, some very good times, better than would be expected on the day. Perhaps the ground had dried out a little bit more than people thought. Right, Los Angeles jumped out of 3, beat Sunway from 8, Ambient Friendly from 6, Matsuri from stall number 2. There's a fair bit to pick out as far as this race is concerned. Firstly, look at Ambient Friendly. Third last in yellow, a bit keen. Just doing a bit too much. That is how Ambient Friendly races. Did so in the Lingfield Derby trial. Did so at Epsom. Still ran really well. But still, the fact remains that Ambient Friendly is a keen-going sort. There's the winner, Los Angeles, sat in 4th place. He's got his 3 stable companions just ahead of him. That was fairly predictable, wasn't it? The gallop is pretty sound in the early part of the race. The first 7 furlongs, according to the Race IQ sectionals, was sound, and it picked up a long way out. The pace picked up from 5 furlongs out, and it was a very strong test of stamina, which Los Angeles has passed with flying colours, and I think he's shown improved form from Epsom. Of course, at Epsom, he chased a very strong pace and sat 2nd, 3rd all the way, and he was just a bit one-paced in the closing stages and was beaten 6 lengths by City of Troy, who sat further back in the race. Now, City of Troy could be a superstar, so he didn't lose anything in defeat that day. But I think this flatter track, perhaps sitting a little bit further back off the gallop than he did at Epsom, has suited him, and they're beginning to sort of wind it up now as they swing round the bend. They're going uphill at this stage. Let me give you Los Angeles' closing splits. It'll tell you that he's not just a stayer. He's not a one-pace stayer that has won this off a strong gallop by just keeping galloping. He can quicken. He can find a bit of a turn of foot, and that's what he's done here. 11.96, 11.88, 11.77. These are all his closing sectionals, and then an 11.26. That's his penultimate furlong. That's pretty impressive off a sound gallop. And 12.7, he's got tired in the closing stages. He's hung there. Euphoric, his pacemaker's gone wide and left him a big gap up the inside. Ambient Friendly's got there. What can Rab Havlin do? Well, nothing. Ambient Friendly's travelled best, got into the race 2.5 out, and Rab's going to try and utilise that horse's turn of foot. But the stamina runs dry as far as Ambient Friendly's concerned late on. And now, flicking his ears backwards and forwards, dossing in front, Los Angeles does that 11.26 furlong from the 2 to the 1. That's too much for his rivals. And try as Sunway did from the back of the field, he's not going to run down this strong stayer who's done 11.26 in the penultimate furlong. That's a tough ask. It means that Sunway's run really well. Ambient Friendly's run well too, but for me, didn't get home. Surely 10 furlongs beckons for that horse. And Los Angeles was pretty impressive to my eye, and the data is really positive about what he did. He is not just a one-pace stayer who is automatically a candidate for the Ledger. He's got a turn of foot. And when Ryan Moore was interviewed after this race, interestingly, he said, he's too classy for the Ledger. So there could be other prizes on the agenda for Los Angeles, who is getting better all the time. That was some Irish Derby, as far as the data was concerned. What a fast time that was, and what a really good winner as well. So that's it for the verdict this week. I hope you've enjoyed looking back at the Pretty Polly Irish Derby. A couple of races from Newmarket. A decent 2-year-old for you to follow. Time for Sandals, who won at Kempton midweek. All sorts for your racing TV tracker. And do read my verdict extra column. That'll be on the website tomorrow. Bye-bye from me.